Hey you, and welcome. In this video, we will start working with GitHub, so let's dive right into it. In order to get started with GitHub, you have to first create an account. You can do that by clicking on sign up on github.com. As you can see, I'm on that already. So I can click on sign up and I can follow the prompts accordingly, or I can just sign in. I already have an account, so I'm just going to go ahead and sign in. Great, I'm logged in. I'm on my profile screen right now. You can go to that by clicking on the top right hand corner and click on your profile or your repositories. Both of them will land you somewhere in the area. I'm in the repository section, and these are all my repositories. On the left hand side I have my profile. I'm not going to go too much into detail about how to set up your profile. You can do that. It's pretty much like a social network. It's just a little bit more coding friendly. So that's about it for that part. I will create a new repo to get started. So if I click on new button, that should take me to creating a new repo section. Great. In order to create a repository, I need to select owner of that repository. Since I have many teams under my profile, I can just select one that belongs to me, in this case my username, and then the repository name can be test API or something like that, but just call it whatever. Make sure there's no spaces. If you put a space, I'm pretty sure it's going to complain. You cannot have spaces, so we'll just put a dash to separate the words. With that done, next portion of it is, what is the visibility of it? Are you making this public so that everybody can see your code, or are you going to make it private so only you or collaborators can see that code? Usually I would just work with public if it's something that is not as important, but if you're working on a project where you want some privacy, definitely make it private, and that should be free. And that's only recently that has happened. All right, so I'll select public for now. We won't worry too much about what to initialize in this repository. It'll just be an empty repository for now, and I'll go ahead and create a repository. There we go. And as soon as you create it, it gives you a few commands. Now, GitHub usually works well in command line. That's the go-to for most of the people. However, I find that very difficult for beginners or somebody who's trying to get familiar with GitHub, especially when they want to see what has changed, what is going to go to GitHub. So best way to do that, best way to onboard yourself is to use GitHub Desktop, which I have open in another tab. So there's the desktop.github.com, and I can click on download for Mac OS. In my case, it's Mac OS, but for your operating system, select the correct option. Awesome. With that downloaded, I will just go ahead and open the file that will unzip. I've put the GitHub Desktop in the applications folder, and now I can double click to open that application, and it will ask me whether I want to open. Yes, I do. And there we go. Now I have to sign in to github.com, so I'll just click on that. It should open up the link in browser where you can authorize the GitHub Desktop. In this case, it's very okay to do that, so I'll just go ahead and click authorize desktop, and I'll say yes, always open link back to github.com or GitHub Desktop. And now it's asking to configure Git. I'll just stick with the default options, which are coming from github.com. Click on finish, and there we go. GitHub Desktop is set up. Now I could clone the repositories. Right now, the repository that we created is remote only because it's on the cloud, it's on the github.com, but it's not locally anywhere on my computer. For me to get that locally on my computer, I have to clone the repository. That's what everybody means when they say just clone my repository. It would mean that take the repository link from here, which is this one, git@github.com. Take that link and clone that into your computer. That way you will have the same code I have. To do that in GitHub Desktop, I believe you can just click on Setup in Desktop, and I'll say always open link. And it's asking me, do you want to clone this repository, clone a repository? And I say yes, but make sure before you do that to check the path. It should be going to the right directory. In this case, I'm going to my documents folder. A GitHub folder will be created, and test API folder will be created. That's where all the code will be. However, the repo is empty, so there will be no code, but at least it creates a link between my computer and the github.com. So I'll press clone, and that cloned the repo for me. Go to Documents, GitHub folder, then Test API folder. I can see that there's nothing here, and we're going to be adding some code into this area. All right, so I'll see you all in the next video.